Today, we're diving into the story of a man you've probably never heard of, but whose work literally shaped an entire nation. We're talking about Prashant Chandra Mahalanobis, the guy who built India's entire statistical system from the ground up. So, picture this. The year is 1947. India has just gained its independence. And suddenly, you're in charge. You're responsible for 350 million people. So where do you even start? Seriously, how do you figure out where to build schools, what crops to plant, or how to kickstart an entire industrial revolution? Well, for India's brand new leaders, the answer became pretty obvious pretty fast. Before you can make a single plan, you first have to measure what you're working with. You need data. You need numbers on everything: the people, the economy, the land itself. Because without that, you're basically governing in the dark. And that is where our story really kicks off. This is the story of P.C. Mahalanobis, the man who didn't just find the tools to measure India, he literally had to invent them. He forged them from scratch. All right, so here's what's so wild about this whole thing. Mahalanobis, well, he wasn't supposed to be a statistician at all. His journey started in a completely different world, which honestly just makes his story and his impact that much more incredible. I mean, look at his early career. It's all physics all the way. He graduates with honors, heads off to Cambridge, and even works in the legendary Cavendish Laboratory, alongside a Nobel Prize winner, C.T.R. Wilson. So yeah, he was absolutely on the fast track to being a top physicist. But then, a short trip back home to India changed absolutely everything. And the whole thing pivots on this one moment. It's totally unexpected. Right before that trip home, someone introduces him to this journal. It's called Biometrica. Now, as you can see from the quote, this wasn't just some casual read. No, he was so hooked that he bought the entire set of the journal and hauled it all the way back to India with him. And that journal, it was full of statistics, biometrics, and it just lit a fire in him. So, okay, he's back in India, armed with this brand new passion. And what does he do? He doesn't just study statistics, he starts inventing it. He literally developed these revolutionary new tools that gave India, and you know what, the rest of the world, a totally new way of seeing and understanding really complex information. His first huge innovation is something called the Mahalanobis distance, or d squared. Okay, so think about it like this. If you want to know if an apple is weird, you can't just look at its color, right? You got to look at its color and its weight and its size all at the same time. Well, d squared is a genius way to mush all those different measurements together into one single score of uniqueness. And here's the really brilliant part. It's what's called scale invariant. It doesn't matter if you're measuring in grams or pounds, inches or centimeters. It puts everything on the same playing field so you can compare apples to, well, apples. And he didn't just sit on this idea. He put it to work right away. He used it in a field called anthropometry, which is basically analyzing physical measurements. He was looking at the social makeup of Anglo-Indians in Calcutta. Now, okay, the subject matter itself is a bit dated by today's standards, for sure. But the method? It was absolutely revolutionary. And get this, that same basic idea is what helps power the algorithms today that spot credit card fraud or classify medical scans. But then came his second big idea, and you could argue this one was even more impactful. He perfected the art of the large-scale sample survey. He had this incredible insight. You don't have to ask every single one of those 350 million people a question to get a really accurate answer. He created this whole system. First, you run these small pilot surveys to test everything and iron out the kinks. Then, you use random sampling to go big, and suddenly you can get astonishingly accurate data on, well, everything. From how big the crop harvest is going to be to how much tea the average person drinks. And people in his field, they got it. They saw how powerful this was immediately. I mean, you have Sir R.A. Fisher, we're talking about the father of modern statistics himself, calling Mahalanobis' technique the most potent fact-finding process available. I mean, coming from him, that's like getting a seal of approval from the master. It's the ultimate validation. But see, Mahalanobis knew that just having brilliant ideas wasn't going to be enough. He wasn't just an ideas guy, he was a builder. An institution builder. He took his incredible statistical tools and built the entire infrastructure needed to run a modern, data-driven country. And right at the heart of his vision was the Indian Statistical Institute, the ISI. And you have to appreciate just how humble its beginnings were. We're talking about an informal group of people meeting in a college room. Their first-year budget? 238 rupees. That's it. And today, it's officially an institute of national importance. Its methods are the gold standard, used by the World Bank, the UN, I mean, everyone. Think about how amazing that is. This achievement is so unique that modern economists, we're talking Nobel Prize winners like Abhijit Banerjee, they've pointed out that there's just no other incidence of this happening. An institution from a developing country, built from scratch, becoming a world leader in such a huge field, it was completely homegrown and completely world-class. So, with the ISI as his powerhouse, Mahalanobis essentially became the chief architect of India's whole economic strategy. He was right there on the very first planning commission, and it was his model, the Mahalanobis model, that became the foundation for the super important second five-year plan. This was the plan that laid out the entire blueprint for India's industrialization and its economic future. So when you step back and look at it all, what's the lasting legacy of this physicist who became a statistician? Well, it's just massive. He's rightly called the father of Indian statistics. But his influence, his legacy, it goes way, way beyond India's borders. All right, I want you to think about a date, June 29th. What's so special about that day? Well, it's his birthday. And back in 2006, the Indian government made it official. June 29th is now National Statistics Day. It's a national celebration celebrating not just the man, but the entire field he basically built from nothing. That just shows you how essential his work is to the very identity of the nation. And it wasn't just in India. His genius was recognized all over the world. He was made a Fellow of the Royal Society in London, a foreign member of the USSR Academy of Sciences, and a Fellow of the American Statistical Association. He was collecting the highest honors from pretty much every corner of the scientific world. It was incredible. But maybe the best way to sum up his legacy comes from this quote: "Where Mahalanobis and India led, the rest of the world has followed." Just think about that for a second. His work wasn't just for India, it became a blueprint for how any nation could use data to build its future. In the end, Prashant Chandra Mahalanobis didn't just measure a nation, he empowered it, and in doing so, he gave a template to the entire world.